Okay, so I've got a bunch of clips to play for you. We're going to get them out of the way in this segment, then move on to an interview. We've got a lot of other things, but if I didn't cover this, you'd really be missing a lot of important sort of narrative changes that are taking place right now from the White House and in the context of the 2020 presidential election. Donald Trump did both a press briefing and an interview with Fox News host Laura Ingraham last night. I'm going to start with the interview with Laura Ingraham, which Donald Trump was promoting all day, multiple times tweeting things like, for example, I will be interviewed on Ingraham Angle tonight at 10 p.m. on Fox News. Enjoy. And there are a lot of really interesting sort of psychological dynamics going on right now in terms of Donald Trump taking on these interviews and winging rallies, as he said in New Hampshire over the weekend and so on. Because remember that Donald Trump believes he always is the smartest person in the room and that no matter what people throw at him, he's going to come out looking good. And this is why Donald Trump at least seemed open to the idea of sitting down with Robert Mueller back during the Russia investigation days, something which his lawyers knew would be a terrible idea, that Donald Trump would lie, he would perjure himself, it would be a disaster, and they were able to keep him from doing it. And so the context of Trump coming in thinking he's going to be super effective went bad really quickly yesterday in this interview with Laura Ingraham, where she regularly would try to sort of interrupt and redirect Trump because she realized that he was going in a completely wacky direction. There are probably more than just these instances I'm going to play for you, and we'll look at some of these in more detail. But look at all of these moments where Laura Ingraham just interrupting Trump to try to divert or redirect what are disastrous paths for him to be taking, essentially trying to save Donald Trump from himself.
They say that when you walk through the streets of Portland, this is years and years of burning, and
it's not the last 90 days. It's been really
No, it's been horrible in the last 90 days. But no, it's been people that are in the dark shadows, people that.
What does that mean? That sounds like conspiracy theory. Dark shadows.
No,
what is that?
People that you haven't heard of. They're people that are low-income housing, and with that comes a lot of other problems, including crime. May not be nice to say, but I'll say it.
You're not saying all poor people are criminals, though.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But it does. There is a level of violence. In the meantime, he might have been going for a weapon, and there's a whole big thing there. But they choke, just like in a golf tournament. They miss a 3-foot.
You're not comparing it to golf because, of course, that's what the media.
I'm saying people choke.
People panic.
Choke.
Yeah.
Now, I do wonder. We'll never know, but does someone go to Laura Ingraham and say, listen, if Trump starts going down this path or that path, try to interrupt it, try to get in the way? Or is she doing that out of her own desire to help Donald Trump? We don't know. Now, let's look at some of the details of what was discussed. We talked yesterday about Donald Trump bringing in this guy, a neuroradiologist, a doctor, but not someone who has anything to, any expertise in infectious disease, Scott Atlas, who is pushing for a herd immunity approach to dealing with the virus. I told you yesterday why it would be a disaster. Here is Donald Trump now. I told you it would happen. Donald Trump starting to push this idea.
Of Americans, frankly, in both parties, who aren't comfortable.
Well,
with
once
these
you
vaccines.
get to a certain number, we use the word herd, right? Once you get to a certain number, it's going to go away. So, it doesn't have to be. But, yeah, a lot of people are not going to want to do it. A lot of people don't want to do the flu
Should
vaccine.
It be mandatory?
I never had the flu, but I never had a shot. I never had the vaccine. I come here, the first thing, sir, you have to have a flu shot. I said, why? Because you have to have it. I say, what's the percentage? And I wasn't thrilled with the percentage. It's like 50%, 55%.
But Dr. Fauci said it might not give, quote, great protection because it's a coronavirus.
Well, I said, look, if I've never had it, wouldn't it be good? And then I thought I should have it because I'll set an example. So I had it. So I've had it now 3 times. And I still haven't had the flu. So maybe I'll give credit to the flu vaccine. I don't know.
So, of course, Donald Trump seems still to be confused about flu vaccines. We're going to skip that just because I can't cover everything. But I did the math for you on herd immunity yesterday. So here are the numbers. For the level of contagion, for how easily spread coronavirus is, to get to herd immunity, you need 50 to 83% of the population to be immune. If you pick a number in the middle, it's 67. It's like 2/3. Now, with a 1% death rate and 331 million people in the country, if you do some back of the envelope math, if 2/3 of the country gets the virus, that's about 220 million. If 1% die, it's about 2.2 million deaths, meaning we still have 2 million deaths to go to get to herd immunity. If you think the death rate is more like 0.75, then you're still looking at about 1.5 million dead from where we are today. So the herd immunity idea is downright dangerous, and Donald Trump, understanding nothing, is pushing it. Okay, let's continue. Donald Trump suggests, listen, if you don't count the state of New York in coronavirus numbers, we're doing way better.
Bad decisions on nursing homes. He's the #1 state in the country by far for death. I mean, probably in the whole world for death. You take New York out of the equation. I think we have among the best numbers anyway, but you take New York, we have the best numbers in the world countrywide. No, Andrew.
So this is one of those meaningless claims, right? If you take out the top 5 states, our numbers are way better. If you don't include nursing homes, we reduce the death toll by like 40%. If you take out people over age 75, this virus really hasn't been that much of a disaster. This is imaginary nonsense. Does Trump know that it's nonsense? I don't know. I actually don't know. Here is Donald Trump sort of weirdly second guessing police incidents. And we saw a little bit of a preview of this earlier in the compilation of Laura Ingraham trying to help Trump. Here, Trump likens police incidents to putting in golf, where sometimes people choke.
You know, a choker, they choke. Shooting the guy in the back many times. I mean, couldn't you have done something different? Couldn't you have wrestled? You know, I mean, in the meantime, he might have been going for a weapon, and, you know, there's a whole big thing there. But they choke. Just like in a golf tournament, they miss a 3-foot.
You're not comparing it to golf because, of course, that's what the media.
I'm saying people choke.
People panic.
Choke.
Yeah.
And
an outrageous analogy, of course, and Laura Ingraham realizing it and trying to do instant damage control for Donald Trump, but it just kept getting worse and worse. This next clip is a really interesting insight into the psyche, really, of Donald Trump. Take a look at this.
Feel like me. They feel like every time I put Law and Order up on social media, it gets such an incredibly positive response. The people of this country will not stand for it.
So Trump recognizes whenever he posts a tweet, law and order in all caps, a lot of people like it. It gets a good response. Notice that he's saying, I get a good response not when I do anything, but when I post law and order. This is a microcosm of the entire presidency. During the Chris Wallace interview in July, this is, by the way, I tweeted about this. This is relevant to bring up. Trump said during the Chris Wallace interview in July, within 2 weeks, we will have a signed and delivered new health care law. It's going to replace Obamacare. It's going to be done in 2 weeks. That was in July. That came and went. During August, Trump was asked about it. He said, we're going to do it at the end of the month. And Trump starts saying Trump's doing new health care. Trump's doing health care. As you probably know, it's now September. August 31st came and went, and Trump didn't do it. Trump either recognizes or simply doesn't care that he doesn't actually need to do stuff. He gets a lot of the political benefit just from saying he's going to do it. And that's exactly what he's saying here when he says, I post law and order and people absolutely love it. Then Trump went into wild conspiracies about the city of Portland, for example, which he claims has been burning for years.
They say that when you walk through the streets of Portland, this is years and years of burning, and
it's not last 90 days. It's been really
no. It's been horrible in the last
protests.
90 days. But no, it's been going on for many years. It's like you're in. I won't name the city, but it's a city someplace in the world that's not so good, okay? It's a terrible situation.
The Oregon governor said
Portland has been burning from years. Like, what is that? What does that even mean? Firefighters just let things burn for years in Portland? None of this makes sense. The facts don't matter, but this is the narrative Trump has chosen. Trump has staked out this place in order to get himself from now until the election. He's made the calculation, it may work, it may not, that chaos is good for him, even though the chaos is happening under his watch. It may work and it may not. And I got some interesting pushback yesterday from people writing and saying, David, here's why your take is wrong. The chaos won't work for Donald Trump. And we'll discuss that. But the point is, Trump thinks it will help him. He was asked, would he put Dr. Fauci in charge again if he were to do it all over again?
You had to do it all again. I know that's kind of a hard question, but do it all again. Would you put Fauci front and center every day in charge of the coronavirus task force?
I get along with him very well. I disagree with a lot of what he said. He said, keep it open for China. That was a big mistake, and he admits it. I get along with him, but every once in a while he'll come up with one that I say, where did that come from? I inherited him. He was here. He was a part of this huge piece of machinery. I didn't put anybody in charge. He was here. He's been here for 40 years.
1984.
Okay, he's been here for many, many years. You inherit a lot of people. It's part of the machinery.
He inherited Fauci, he says, sort of like a stepchild that came with your partner, came with the relationship. I inherited him. So no real answer there. And then again, restating this wild claim that he's done more for black people than anyone except maybe Abraham Lincoln, but maybe even more than Abraham Lincoln.
Do anything for them. I've done more, and I said in the speech, some people said you shouldn't say it, it's too aggressive. I said, what's aggressive? I've done more than any president in the history of our country, except for maybe Abraham Lincoln. The reason I say maybe is I'll explain that to you later, okay?
All right.
Funny that every time Trump says this, nobody says, what about LBJ? Maybe Jonathan Swan from Axios said, what about LBJ? Although I don't remember. And if he said it, I don't know that Trump even heard it. I'm going from memory. But aside from the Lincoln conversation, nobody mentions LBJ in this discussion. I can't even pretend that this is serious, but Trump continues to say it. And then here is where it gets really just dystopian in explaining that someone is secretly controlling Joe Biden right now. Donald Trump suggests that there was some kind of thwarted terror plot against the Republican convention involving thugs on a plane, but he won't go into detail.
He's not controlling anything.
Who do you think is pulling Biden's strings? Is it former Obama
people
officials?
That you've never heard of, people that are in the dark shadows, people that
what does that mean? That sounds like conspiracy theory. Dark shadows.
No,
what is that?
People that you haven't heard of. They're people that are on the streets. They're people that are controlling the streets. We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms with gear and this and that. They're on a plane.
Where's this?
I'll tell you sometime, but it's under investigation right now. But they came from a certain city, and this person was coming to the Republican National Convention. And there were like 7 people on the plane like this person, and then a lot of people were on the plane to do big damage.
So is that completely made up? Probably not. It's probably not completely made up. It's probably a combination of something that happened, which Trump first misunderstood and then exaggerated. I apologize for hitting my microphone there. It's probably something Trump misheard and is exaggerating now for some unclear and unknown benefit. So this is the president talking about, a plane loaded with thugs in black uniforms. I wonder if their uniforms were the only things that were black about those so-called thugs. That's certainly a question. And then he says this person, but was it a person or was it a group? Even Laura Ingraham unable to save Donald Trump. And remember, Donald Trump's psyche allows him no consideration other than, I'm going to crush this interview. I'm so smart. I'm so good at being interviewed that everybody's going to come away super impressed. Unfortunately, I think some of his followers do come away from an interview like this super impressed. The reality is absolutely horrifying, almost as horrifying as Donald Trump's press briefing, which I want to talk about next. If you are anything like me, you probably aren't thrilled with the idea of going into a doctor's office right now. And thankfully, there's a practical and affordable way to take control of your health and get personalized care from the comfort of your home. It's a service called SteadyMD. They're one of our sponsors. You take a quiz, you get matched with a licensed primary care physician who understands your health needs. You have a 1-hour video call with your new doctor. You establish a meaningful relationship with them. And after that, Your doctor is available to you anytime by text, phone, or video chat. This is not a random doctor on call. Each doctor at SteadyMD has a limited number of patients, so they actually have time to listen to you. You get the personal attention that you deserve. They can do almost everything an in-person doctor can do: perform medical evaluations, talk to you about health concerns, send prescriptions to your home or local pharmacy, and anything they can't do online, they'll quickly set you up with an in-person provider to do, things like blood tests as an example. You don't need insurance. It's only $99 a month with no other fees or copays. There are so many practical advantages to using SteadyMD for primary care, and it's also so much more affordable. Go to steadymd.com/Pakman to take the free quiz, see which doctor is right for you. I took their quiz. They matched me with a doctor who specializes in my particular health needs and situation. The doctor they gave me is a really perfect fit for me and my medical needs. There's no risk, no commitment to get started. Just click the link right underneath this video.